The little witch who forgot her spells. Once upon a time, in a quiet corner of the Mistywood Forest, there lived a little witch named Willa Willowwand. She was the youngest witch in the whole forest, only 99 years old, which, for witches, was still very young. Her crooked hat was too big for her head, her broom always flew sideways, and her black cat, Whiskers, often had to remind her when it was mealtime. Willa wasn't a bad witch. In fact, she was one of the kindest witches anyone had ever met. She didn't cast mean curses or turn people into frogs. Instead, she used her magic to help forest animals, heal broken bird wings, and make tiny sparkles of light for lost fireflies. Everyone loved her, except for one little problem. Willa was terribly forgetful. She forgot where she put her cauldron, forgot the words to her own spells, and sometimes even forgot what day it was. Her cottage was full of sticky notes with scribbles like, "Don't boil the toad too long," or "Remember where you parked the broom." One chilly October morning, as the wind whistled through the trees and the forest smelled of pumpkins and pine, Willa woke up in a panic. It was the day of the Great Witches' Gathering, a grand festival held once every 100 years where all witches showed off their most powerful spells. It was the most important day in a young witch's life, and Willa had been waiting for it since she was a baby witch in striped socks. She rushed to her bookshelf and pulled down her most precious item, the big book of spells and sparkles. But when she opened it, all the pages were blank, completely white. Not a single spell remained. "Oh, whiskers and wands," she cried. "I've forgotten every single spell I ever learned." Whiskers blinked his green eyes lazily. "Well, maybe if you hadn't spilled pumpkin soup on the book last week." Oh no, Willa groaned, spinning in circles. "What am I going to do? The gathering starts at sunset." She tried to remember even the simplest spells. Maybe ... abraca bumblebee? Or was it hocus crocus? She waved her wand, but all that came out were pink bubbles that smelled like strawberries. Whiskers licked one. "At least they taste nice." Willa flopped into her chair. "If I show up without magic, every witch will laugh at me. Especially Morgana the Magnificent. She never liked me." But Willa was not the type to give up easily. She tied her pointed hat tighter, jumped onto her broom, and zoomed into the forest. "Come on, Whiskers. We're going to find my spells before sunset." The broom wobbled and zigzagged through the trees until they landed near the enchanted pond. The water shimmered like glass, and in the middle sat a wise old frog named Ferdinand. "Ribbit." "What brings you here, little witch?" croaked Ferdinand. "Oh, Ferdinand," Willa said, "I forgot all my spells. Do you know how I can remember them?" Ferdinand blinked thoughtfully. "Magic doesn't come from books, my dear. It comes from your heart. But if you truly want your spells back, you must seek 3 things: the memory dewdrop, the song of the wind, and the spark of kindness." Willa's eyes widened. 3 things? That sounds hard. "Ribbit, all true magic is," said the frog. "Now hurry before sunset." So off Willa flew again. First, she searched for the memory dewdrop. She traveled to the highest mountain in Mistywood, where the air was thin and cold. On the top grew the ancient forget-me-not flower, glowing faintly blue. Dewdrops sparkled on its petals. She stretched out her hand to pick one, but the flower whispered, "Only those who remember others can take my dew." Willa thought for a moment. She remembered the tiny rabbit she once helped when it broke his paw, the sparrow she nursed back to flight, and the little girl she once saved from getting lost in the fog. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, "I remember them all." The flower shimmered and released a single shining drop. Willa caught it in a glass vial. "Thank you," she said softly. Next, she had to find the song of the wind. She soared high into the clouds until she reached the whispering cliffs, where the winds sang through the rocks like a ghostly choir. But when she tried to catch the song, the wind laughed and blew her hat off. "Wait," she called. "Please, I need your song." The wind swirled around her gently. "Then listen, little witch. Don't chase me, feel me." Willa closed her eyes. She stopped trying to grab the sound and instead listened, really listened, to the rustling leaves, the whistling breeze, and the soft hum of nature. Slowly, the melody of the wind filled her heart. She whispered it back, and the wind gifted her a glowing silver note that hovered before her. She caught it gently and placed it in her pocket. "Two down," she said, smiling. "Now the spark of kindness." She flew through the forest, but the last clue puzzled her. What was the spark of kindness? She looked everywhere, in trees, under rocks, even inside her broom's straw bristles, but found nothing. Just as the sun began to set, Willa heard a soft cry. She looked down and saw a tiny baby owl trapped in a thorny bush. "Oh no, hold on, little one," she cried, jumping off her broom. The thorns pricked her fingers as she tried to free the owl, but she didn't stop. Finally, she pulled the frightened bird out and wrapped it in her cloak. The owl blinked gratefully and nuzzled against her cheek. Suddenly, a warm golden light burst from Willa's hands. It was bright and gentle, like a sunrise. "The spark of kindness," Whiskers whispered in awe. The golden light floated into the air and swirled around her wand. Then, all at once, her wand began to glow, and she felt magic pulsing inside her once more. The memory dewdrop, the song of the wind, and the spark of kindness merged into a single spell. "I remember now," Willa said softly. "Magic isn't about words or wands. It's about love, care, and courage." When she returned to the Great Witch's gathering, every witch was already showing off. Storms, lightning, glittering charms, and dragons filled the sky. Morgana sneered. "Where's your magic, little Willa? Did you forget again?" Willa smiled. "Maybe I did, but I found something better." She raised her wand, and instead of sparks or thunder, a soft golden light spread through the forest. Flowers bloomed instantly, fireflies danced, and the stars above twinkled brighter. The other witches gasped in wonder as a feeling of peace and happiness warmed their hearts. Morgana's frown melted into a shy smile. "That's beautiful." The Grand Witch, an ancient lady with hair like silver cobwebs, nodded approvingly. "Young Willa, you have reminded us all of the true meaning of magic." From that night on, Willa became known not as the witch who forgot her spells, but as Willa the Wise, the witch who taught everyone that the best magic doesn't come from books, it comes from kindness. And as for Whiskers, he still licked strawberry bubbles every morning, just to remember how it all began. Moral: the greatest magic in the world is kindness, and it never fades, even when everything else is forgotten.